Have they made progress with this strike?
They're picketing right now, so I think it's the early stages. I would think it might take a little bit with this one.
When someone crosses the writer strike, that's some dirty shit. They cross the picket line.
Yeah, I haven't seen anybody doing that yet.
I think Ellen did. I had a buddy of mine who was writing on Ellen. Everybody kind of knows now what she's really all about. And that's another one of those. Like, press. I'm so nice and I'm so sweet. Being behind the scenes.
With all the money in the world, you'd think Ellen DeGeneres could keep her secrets better hidden. But nope, Joe Rogan just exposed them like it was part of his morning routine, right next to his protein shake. So what happens when the king of podcasts and truth-telling sets his sights on America's favorite dancing daytime host? You get a truth bomb so intense it could make your latte curdle. If you always believed Ellen was just all smiles and cozy throw pillows, think again. Joe's got the receipts, and they definitely don't come with a studio audience.
Yeah, but
don't hate on the people who are doing it. That's why you're in that position.
Did you see what Ellen did? This is really, really kind of funny. She said, being stuck here in quarantine is like being in prison. I haven't changed my clothes in days and everyone's gay. It's funny.
It's funny.
It's funny. And she got attacked. Do you think this is prison? My grandmother died. You're living in a mansion. That kind of. But I think it's probably partly because that guy came out and said, hey, Ellen is mean. Post your stories about Ellen being mean.
Do you see the stories?
They're bad stories.
Ellen DeGeneres once told the world to be kind, but then did everything possible to make sure no one ever took that message seriously again. Because nothing says kindness like scaring interns, firing people just for chewing gum, and having the emotional warmth of a broken self-checkout machine.
Big changes at the Ellen Show after multiple allegations that it was a toxic place to work. 3 top producers have now, quote, parted ways. But the horror stories keep coming. One guest on the show telling Inside Edition that she was told, whatever you do, don't be funnier than Ellen.
And now, like the universe's favorite chaotic uncle with a podcast, Joe Rogan seems to have finally had enough of Ellen's daytime rule. Because there's only so long you can watch someone dance on TV before realizing it's just a distraction from a behind-the-scenes nightmare happening in the green room. Let's be real, Ellen DeGeneres didn't run her talk show like a fun, feel-good celebrity playground. It felt more like a low-budget psychological thriller, where smile for the cameras or get emotionally waterboarded might as well have been written on her cue cards. Behind those sparkly blue eyes was basically a stress ball shaped like a disappointed assistant's crushed hopes and dreams.
It's like a beautiful name, Isis.
Ellen's rough.
Ellen is like an old.
But it's a rough one now.
It's a rough one now because she was running Abu Ghraib in the back of her show. That's a rough one. She's out there dancing with Kristen Bell, and in the back, there's people that are getting up on the rack like this.
It's so weird when you see, like, a lot of people saying that someone who seems so nice is not nice at all.
She doesn't seem nice, but that people have a very poor judge of character. She doesn't seem nice. It seems forced.
Joe Rogan, who usually saves his podcast for MMA fighters, UFO enthusiasts, and the occasional mushroom-fueled dimension explorer, has now aimed his sharp opinions at Ellen. And somehow, it's more satisfying than watching a flat-earther try to explain gravity using a pancake.
Ellen situation.
Yeah.
You know, people found out that Ellen was mean, and all these people came out and said, Ellen's actually a bitch. And they were like, whoa, I can't believe it. And she lost everything. She fell apart, disappeared, because people found out that this character that she was portraying in a half an hour on a television show is not really who she was. My buddy Greg, who was one of her writers, was like, she's a piece of shit. And he was like, she's a fucking monster.
Here's the thing, Ellen wasn't just a bad boss, she was the final boss of passive-aggressive tyranny, with a workplace so toxic it made a Chernobyl tour seem like a wellness retreat, and Joe Rogan, with his UFC-honed nonsense detector, decided it was time to drop the verbal guillotine. He basically took all that Be Kind branding, blended it into a protein shake, and hurled it into the sun, because even without a degree in workplace ethics, Joe could see that the human version of a labradoodle was running a full-on Hollywood sweatshop. Ellen's public image always felt like a warm hug from a hologram, comforting from far away, but get too close and you'd short-circuit from the fake vibes. Her version of kindness came with a time limit, a carefully chosen camera angle, and a strict no eye contact policy. And the stories? Oh, they flowed like kombucha at a Malibu drum circle. Employees allegedly punished for speaking to her. A don't look Ellen in the eyes rule so intense it made staring at a solar eclipse seem safer. One person reportedly fired for taking medical leave, and another warned of retaliation for reporting harassment, because apparently, nothing says fun-loving daytime queen like threatening HR policies.
Morning to you, Hedda. What do you think of the news? Has this come as a shock? Hi. No, not a shock at all. The viewers have spoken. Her ratings have been in the toilet for a long, long time now. Her show has not been fun. It has not been interesting. And she's not really, by the way, stepping down. The viewers fired her.
Meanwhile, Joe Rogan's over here letting people ramble about DMT and elk meat for 3 hours straight without anyone getting fired for blinking too loudly. And the irony is wild. Joe, who once interviewed a guy convinced Atlantis is buried under a Costco, somehow comes off as the emotionally stable one in this comparison. Ellen's show was a masterclass in contradictions. Big smiles up front, silent screams in the back. Like if Willy Wonka ran a chocolate factory that also doubled as a psychological torture chamber, and even that would be less confusing than the vibe behind her set. Then here comes Rogan basically saying, enough with this talk show cosplay, and calling out how Ellen somehow turned her show into the Stanford prison experiment with mood lighting. He didn't even need to dig deep. All he had to do was point out the obvious, that the woman who built her entire brand on kindness couldn't even be nice to the guy who brought her coffee. That's not just hypocrisy, that's Olympic-level self-sabotage in yoga pants. And the kicker? Ellen wrapped up her final episode with a speech about gratitude and growth. As if gaslighting your staff for nearly 2 decades counts as emotional progress, while Joe's out here cursing and flexing but still managing to be the less toxic one in the room.
People that are like that all the time, it doesn't seem nice. It's very forced. And whatever, you're allowed to be a bitch, right? You're allowed to be a bitch. You're allowed to be nasty to people. You're accomplished. You're a comedian. You did the whole thing. What you're not allowed to do is have a Guantanamo Bay situation in the backstage of your show where everybody's walking around afraid for their life, and it's like Abu Ghraib where they're hooked up to wires and they
Dogs
have like
around them.
Yeah, she's got dogs and hoods. If an intern's late, they have a hood on. I don't support that.
She used to end every show by telling viewers to be kind to one another. And it's almost cute how long it took people to realize that might have actually been a warning. Like, be kind or I'll haunt your dreams and cancel your parking validation. Meanwhile, Joe Rogan's podcast might be a swirling mix of bro science and conspiracy theories, but you never hear anyone say, hey, don't look Joe in the eye or he'll eat your aura. That weird, magical honor belongs only to Queen Ellen of Passive-Aggressive Island. And let's not forget her guests. A-listers always got the full glitter treatment and a cringy dance-off, but if you were a lesser-known guest or worse, a crew member, good luck. Suddenly you're playing lunch break Russian roulette or getting locked in a closet with a sticky note that says, smile more. You know it's bad when Joe Rogan, a guy who once hosted a show where people ate insects for prize money, looks at your workplace and goes, wow, that's a bit extreme. And here's the wild part. Ellen didn't just make mistakes, she curated them, with a level of consistency that made it feel like she was trying out for the villain role in a Pixar movie. Every allegation, every teary testimony, every former staffer's horror story painted the same twisted picture. A funhouse mirror version of kindness, where every smile came with a quiet threat attached.
In times where like they're gonna find the thing if you don't go away. You gotta have a good run, and then when you have a good run, you step back and you go, okay, I'm still gonna do my thing, but like I'm not. I mean, there's only a few jobs in entertainment, right?
Right.
So I think a lot of the cancel culture shit is probably these motherfuckers want those jobs.
Ooh.
They're like, how long is this bitch gonna be dancing? I can dance with Hillary Clinton. I could do the Charleston with Henry Kissinger, whatever the fuck she does out there.
The Charleston, is that what it is?
She goes out there, do the Charleston. She's got war criminals. Her and Bush are jumping around. I mean,
that's right. She was buddies with Bush. That was like
she's
one of the
a
first
CIA agent.
You could be doing your job perfectly, but if you breathe too loudly near Ellen's salad, fired. Asked for a day off, fired. Had an aura she didn't like, fired. Working for her was basically like playing Minesweeper with your career. Joe Rogan isn't exactly famous for being subtle, but when even he starts calling out Ellen's nonsense, that's not just a red flag. It's a neon billboard flashing in bold letters. And the wild part? He's doing it from the comfort of his soundproof podcast studio, yet it still feels more real than all 19 seasons of Ellen's fake daytime joy ever did. Remember her big comeback tour where she tried to sell empathy? The one where she sort of apologized with all the sincerity of a teenager busted for stealing vape pens? That whole speech had less passion than a soggy cardboard box. Meanwhile, Joe just laughed and kept talking about it because he doesn't need PR teams or a teary-eyed rebrand. He's not pretending to be your best friend, not handing you herbal tea while calling security when you sneeze. What you see is what you get. A walking protein shake with a mic and zero filter. EllenDeGeneres, on the other hand, built a whole empire on the illusion of empathy, turning smiles and shoe giveaways into weapons like a budget Oprah with a hidden mean streak. And now it's all falling apart. Awkward, forced, and honestly a little sad, just like one of her scripted monologue jokes.
What do you think will happen to her now?
Well, I'd like to see her work on a farm where she can relate with all the animals and the pets and the dogs and the cows and the pigs, because she can relate to animals far more than she does with people. I was not able to have any connection with her, make any eye contact. And here's the thing, it's not just me or 3 of us. There were over 100 employees over the 19 years that walk away with this sickened feeling, about working there. As much as I loved my job as a booker and producer, I was almost relieved when I got fired, because it was like I want to take a shower. It was like a whole new dawn. So I don't feel that she has the trust anymore of the viewer.
Joe Rogan basically pointed at the Emperor's new clothes and laughed out loud, because underneath all that vegan positivity and designer cardigans was a boss who made Gordon Ramsay look like Mr. Rogers. Ellen's empire didn't crumble from just one scandal. It collapsed because the fake feel-good image couldn't carry the weight of her own ego anymore. And when a guy like Joe Rogan, who talks about bear attacks like he's reading a bedtime story, calls you out for being too aggressive, maybe it's time to seriously rethink your brand. Let's talk about the receipts. Her producers were accused of creating a toxic culture filled with harassment, triggering investigations, resignations, and one awkwardly lit apology video that looked more like Cruella de Vil doing PR damage control with a ring light and a hostage script. And Joe? He didn't even have to dramatize it. The facts screamed loud enough. When a dozen former employees speak up, that's not coincidence. That's basically a full Yelp review sprinkled with emotional trauma. Meanwhile, Ellen kept grinning through her teeth, dancing with celebrities and pretending she wasn't mentally stabbing anyone who dared to ask for a raise, while the audience slowly started catching on. Guests didn't look thrilled to be there anymore. They looked like they were serving court order time for celebrity rehab.
Stephen Paddock, and do not ask me for sources, but Stephen Paddock.
Who's that?
He was the guy that shot up the Vegas concert. That was a very tragic thing. Listen to this. The only guy that saw Stephen Paddock alive, his name is Jesus Campos. He was a guard at Mandalay Bay. He got interviewed nowhere else. You know where he got interviewed in the beginning? Ellen.
Really?
Weird. And then they went on, if you could find that clip, they went on with a weird diagram of how it happened, and Ellen's showing the people how it happened. Not like an emotional, how are you feeling, how are you holding up? It was a weird diagram of and then he went to the left and to the right. It was very strange to, look, what the hell's going on? This is a daytime.
Rogan could have just ignored it, but he didn't, because even the king of the carnivore diet has a breaking point when it comes to fake nice people who run their workplaces like a secret CIA prison. Ellen's PR team must have been sweating in their fair trade hemp shirts when Joe brought it up, because he's not someone you can cancel easily. He's not one of those soft influencers who can be pressured into staying quiet. He's basically a walking, talking, unfiltered Reddit thread, and Ellen walked right into it. And of course she can't really respond, because if she does, she's admitting that maybe, just maybe, years of stories about her toxic workplace weren't just rumors. You can't fix that with a smile and a game of who's in the box? Joe didn't call her out to get attention. He doesn't need to. He already has a $200 million Spotify deal, and fans will happily listen to him chat with a guy living in a van eating dirt. This wasn't about clout, this was personal. It was about exposing the truth behind the illusion, because Ellen wasn't just a bad boss. She was the ultimate boss of fake positivity. She built her whole image on being cheerful and kind, but behind the scenes, she brought storms into the studio. Rogan just turned on the light and showed everyone the mold hiding under the fresh coat of paint.
Look how she's got an antenna from someone's Buick that she's popped off and she's using it as a pointer.
But why the hell is this happening on a daytime show where this is weird?
Where'd she get that pointer?
I don't know. She stole it off an intern's car.
Why wouldn't you just use your finger? If that was you, if it was your show, the Tim Dillon show, wouldn't you just point?
Yeah.
This is also a giant screen behind her, so they could have just put it on that screen.
So, but she's using this thing. I find it very strange. I don't know why.
Wait a minute.
Oh, and remember, if you ever end up on a show where they give you free sneakers but tell you not to make eye contact with the host, run fast. Seriously, even Joe Rogan would tell you that. Now, let's be clear. This isn't about hating someone who smiles a lot or enjoys a fun dance break. We all want a boss who acts like a real human, not some silent assassin. But Ellen, She somehow turned what should have felt like a cozy, feel-good daytime show into something more like a stressful hostage situation. And when Joe Rogan called her out, that was the ultimate boss-level mic drop. The truth is, Ellen's downfall didn't shock anyone. People had been whispering for years, but everyone wanted to believe in the magic. It's easier to pretend your favorite daytime queen isn't a toxic boss when she's handing out puppies on live TV.